My name is Sky. I am currently the Stingrays 3 to 4 teacher. I also 2IC as well at Sweetpeas Kindergarten and long day care at Penrith service. So we looked at several different scientists in their chosen fields, and one of them the children really liked because she was a food scientist that focused on gut health. So we started with the question of how food digests in the body, and then we looked at all the different aspects of the digestive system. Out of our 29 children, all of them participated in this experience. And we have the ages ranging from 2 to 6 years old. The kids really wanted to learn about food because they love food. So we discussed at meal times about the different types of food that we eat. And that's what sparked them to want to learn about the process of how food goes into the mouth and then down into the esophagus and then down into the stomach. So we looked at different experiments and things like that. They just thought you eat and poop. That was it. There was no there was no elaboration about it. They were just like, oh well, when we eat we just poo it out, we wee it out like that. And that's exactly what it is. And when we looked further into it, they were really fascinated, especially when we did the experiments, because they had that visual aspect to it. And we looked at the stomach, we looked at the esophagus, we looked at the mouth and how we chew, we looked at the different types of food that we could that digest, and then we also looked at the experiments and how that went from that and then to food to plate in our vegetable garden. So then there was a discussion about where food comes from. We also did role-playing situations with, them going to the supermarket and buying food and then, paying in like exchange of goods and services. Like really that was more research based in terms of like a role play, because they like to act it out. Like some of the kids wouldn't be able to sit there and have a big long discussion like the little ones, and that's what I mean when I'm like we include all the kids, because we know the types of children that we're handling and teaching and dealing with every day. So we had two main experiments that we focused on. One was to do with the liver detoxing in the body, which we used milk and food colouring for that. They got really excited about the reaction, and when I asked them what they thought, they were like, oh, I think it's going to like explode. I think it's going to make all these colours. Like they really were really focused on the reaction of that. So there was that, and the milk acted as the stomach, the food colouring acted as that liver, and it just really the different colours mixed together. They really loved that, and it was simple enough for them to understand and make those connections. And then with the other experiment we had was with bread, and that was how the stomach and the juices also digest the food. So the bread would soak up all the water and make it like really soggy. So I would say to the kids, okay, the bread's soggy now. So that means that your body, when your food is digesting, it goes into the stomach, and the acids, the liquid, which is the water, is making it that way. And then they got really excited about that, because it was like, oh, this looks really squishy and this looks really wet and this looks like, slosh or something like that. Like they made up little words to describe how it just looked and felt. And we have some really like sensory kids here. Like they love the water, they love sand. I mean, most kids do, but ours go to that next level. So having those types of experiences really got them engaged. Even the ones that didn't, as I was saying before about the language skills and not being able to really communicate, they still communicated, not necessarily with their mouth, but they communicated with their eyes and got really animated with their hands and wanting to touch and putting their hands in, and so got really involved. Uh, they reflected about how food still wees and poos, but they also liked how they got to see all the different experiments, the reactions, and also the food to plate thing as well, like the idea that where food comes from, going to the supermarket and getting it, or getting it from the ground, and literally pulling it out of the ground, and then coming from that process to obviously taking it home. Like they liked that process. So as they reflected, they were like, oh, we actually are making those connections and saying, oh, we actually go home and we have those foods in the fridge, or we go to the shops and see those foods. And then they go and tell their mum and dad or whoever they live with what they learnt in their own way. So I think that's a really good reflection of how we not only teaching them, but they're teaching us by sharing those experiences with their family. And I think everybody just really enjoyed the fact that the kids got to learn so much about food, because they just love food, and just about the fact that they enjoyed being part of the experience. So each educator got to be a part of the experience, and just enjoyed being there and making connections with them and asking questions and just being part of the process.